Hi, this is Debbie from cariadcards.co, and today I'm going to be showing you how I made this card. So the card has a real red background, an embossed layer, we've got gold glitter paper there, a punched border here, and a few little stars and a greeting. As ever, I'm going to be using a 6" by 6" card blank that I buy in a pack. I've pre-cut the layers that I want. I've got real red here, and that's cut to 14 centimetres by 14 centimetres, which in Imperial is just over 5.5 inches by 5.5 inches. And then I've got a piece of Whisper White cardstock. Normally I only go down in 0.5 centimetres when I'm doing my matting and layering, but this time I've gone down a whole centimetre, so I've got a big striking border. If you have a look here, quite a larger border than I normally use. So this time I've cut the Whisper White at 13 centimetres by 13 centimetres, or that is 5.25 inches by 5.25 inches. Right, so the first thing that I'm going to do is stamp my greeting so it's got plenty of time to dry. And for that I use the Sassy Salutation set and the Merry Christmas. So I'll just get out my chocolate chip ink up my stamp well, and pop that down. I tend to like to do things like my greetings quite early on, because if I do make a mess, I haven't done too much work to put right, I can easily cut another piece of cardstock. What would be awful would be to do the whole card, finish it off, leave your greeting till the last minute and make a mess. Okay, right, I'm going to let that dry for a minute. I'm going to make this border here, and to do that I'm going to use the Confetti Star Punch by Stampin' Up. It's a beautiful punch, very solid. Taken a strip of real red. It's quite a long strip, much longer than I need, but the reason is one of my little stars has come off. I haven't glued it properly, my fault. Is that I'm doing this on a diagonal, so I need a little bit more than if I was just doing it horizontally. You'll see in a minute. Now with this I tend to start off in the middle of the card, and you'll see why in a minute. Now I'm doing this at a strange angle, so bear with me. Right, when you move your card along you'll see that there are star patterns here. Now you've already cut, or I've already cut some of my pattern, and you want to move this along until it fits exactly over another pattern. So absolutely spot on, and then you know you're going to be punching in the right place. So that's gone as far as I want it there. I just find if I do it this way it seems to work a little bit better for me, because when I take it back that way I've got a bit more punched out pattern to work with, as sometimes it always lines up but just takes a little bit longer to find the exact spot where it is going to line up. There, and I've just found that take it to the right and then move it back and you've just got a little bit more extra to play with. Again, that is spot on, so punch that, and I'm sure that's going to be enough. And the beauty of this is, if you look, you end up with all these gorgeous little stars that you can use on other projects, and I shall be putting a few onto my card shortly. Right, now what I'm going to do is, I've got a smaller border there than I have here, so I'm just going to bring in my paper trimmer and just trim that down. I want it to be roughly 3 centimetres. It doesn't matter if it's a little bit over or under, but you want roughly the same amount of blank space above and below. Right, now because I've cut that at 3 centimetres by 3 centimetres, I've got my gold glimmery paper here. You can use any glittery cardstock for that. That's 3 centimetres by 3 centimetres, so I know I want to cut that at 4 by 4. I want a decent amount of gold showing underneath, otherwise it's not going to be worth a while doing it. So 4x4. Just cut that and pop that aside. One good thing about this, because it's glittery paper, it's almost a little bit like sandpaper. It sharpens your blade a bit. There's always a plus, isn't there? Okay, right, now I want to adhere this to the glittery paper, and that can be quite difficult to do. A lot of glues won't stick. So I'm using Stampin' Up! Glue dots. They're brilliant. They do always stick. Now I don't want to waste any, so I'm just going to roughly measure what I want. I'll overdo it, but I know that's roughly. I'm just taking a pair of scissors here. So that's a bit longer than what I've got there. It gives me a bit of leeway. And a bit longer here. There. There's no point putting glue dots where I'm going to be taking them off, is there? We're all economical with our crafting materials. That's something about being a crafter. I find I save the tiniest little bits of paper and card and ribbon. I can't bear to throw them out. So because again, as I've said, this is quite a difficult material to adhere to, I'm going to use 3 glue dots on one side and 3 on the other, and that will be plenty to hold it. You don't want to be using something where you go to all this trouble, make your card, and this top part just falls off. Okay, right, everybody's got their own method of adhering glue dots. Quite often you can just pop what you want to on there, but because I want these in precise locations, I've just used my pokey tool. Okay, so I'm going to pop that on there, making sure that I've got roughly about the same amount top and bottom. Okay, right, and again I'm just going to cut that there. I'm going to be doing another cut in a moment, but I know that I'm not going to need those edge bits. Right, so what I'm going to do now is bring this card in, and I want it to go, as I like to say, at a jaunty little angle. Okay, so I think that's about there. Yeah, that will do perfectly. Okay, now, am I happy with that? I am. So I'm just going to use a pencil, just draw a line down. Be careful you don't draw onto the edge of your card or you'll end up with a black mark. And I'm going to cut just inside that line, because if you think about it, the card was there and I've cut to the right of the card, so I don't want this to be overlapping by too much. You can cut this on your paper trimmer. In fact, you possibly would get a neater finish, but I'm just going to use my scissors for now. Right. So double check. I must admit I did do a lot of checking and checking and checking and rechecking. Okay, that does come very slightly over here. It's not a problem, because when it's glued down, I won't do it now, but when it's glued, it's only, it's a fraction of a millimetre. It's almost not worth worrying too much about, but we want it to look just right. You could leave that till the end when you've actually glued it, because if I don't get it in the exact same place, I may find it now a bit short, but we're fine. Okay, now, what we've got on here is I've embossed here with my scoreboard. I don't want to emboss this bottom bit, but because I'm going to turn the card over and this isn't going to be stuck yet, I need to have a rough idea of where to emboss to. So I'm going to hold this here, just turn it over, holding it in place, and with pencil just draw myself a rough line. You're not going to see it. This is the back of the card. It's going to be stuck down. You're going to have your border over the top. You're not going to see it, so don't worry. But it gives me something to work with. Right, bring in my ever faithful Simply Scored board. Make sure you've got this the right way up. Salutation at the bottom, face down. Pop it in. I hope you can see this. Use your stylus tool that comes with it, and I'm going to score at every 1/8 of an inch, and I'm just going to go down to the line. That way it's just going to score and emboss the top half of the card. Now you could do this if you want on the correct side of the card, and then you'd get what's called a de-emboss line. It would actually look like this, where the indentations or the scoring goes downwards, and that's perfectly fine. There's no right or wrong way to do it. Either is fine. I don't know, for some reason preferred the emboss look, but that really is personal preference. Right, this tool is so easy to use. You soon get used to how much pressure you need to use so that your stylus stays in the groove. Sounds a bit like a song, doesn't it, in the groove? Right, sorry I'm going as fast as I can. I'm always very mindful that you're sat watching me while I'm doing this, and after you've seen the first couple, it's probably not the most exciting thing to watch. Okay, almost there. Last one here. Ooh, I've just moved it slightly there. Don't move it, otherwise your lines won't be parallel. Okay, pop that out of the way. And then you see we've now got our embossing. It doesn't matter, it's not perfectly straight there, it's going to be covered up. So let's start assembling the card. Got real red cardstock. I'm going to be using my trusty glue. I hope I've cleaned the top of it out. I'm not very good at putting the top back on, and it sometimes gets a bit clogged up. I get so carried away doing the next part of the project that I put my glue just on one side, and you go back and it's sealed up. But you can usually clear it with a pokey tool. Oh, getting glue all over my paper. Okay, I'm feeling very generous today with the glue. Oh, look at that. Let's make sure I don't get it on the back of the card. Okay, and let's get this attached. It does give you a bit of leeway using the glue. Okay, now I just tend to eyeball this so I get in my head roughly where it's going to go, because don't forget it's got a bigger border than we normally use. And I tend just to put this around the outside edge. This is very good glue actually. It doesn't tend to pucker the card up. A lot of glues you use wet the card, and as they dry they can end up sort of misshapen. I don't know what the technical term is. Puckered, I suppose. Is that technical? Right, you see with this glue it's given me a little bit of manoeuvrability. Double-sided tape is brilliant. I'm not knocking it at all. I've used double-sided tape for many years, but once you've committed, you've committed. So that just gives me a little bit of peace of mind. So I'm going to be putting that on there, and again use my glue. Let's pop it on the back. It doesn't matter how much you put on this one because you're not going to see the back of the card from this. Whee. And then you could leave it at that, or what I've done on my card, or shall I put that up a bit? No, leave it as it is. I've just got a couple of these and just popped a bit of glue. Now, have you seen this? Pop it on your hand. When it dries you end up with this sort of sticky skin that you've got to pull off, but it's great. Especially, another way you can do it is use a bit of spare card and dab it around your hand. But it does end up, you know, when you've got sunburn, oh this is disgusting what I'm going to say, when you end up with sunburn you start peeling your skin away, that's what this ends up like. It doesn't hurt, but it does dry to a film. So it just means you can pick up however much glue you want. I find, I've got a little tool actually, swapping subjects, that would grab hold of that and drop it in the glue for me and pick it up, but I'm using my fingers, which probably isn't the best thing to do. So I'm just eyeballing this. I haven't really got any specific place, but they're just so pretty. It seems a shame not to use them. And they just add a bit of interest. I didn't really want to use rhinestones on this one. I thought I'd do something different for a change. Right, and there we go. So they tend to look better in odd numbers, so 3s or 5s, but you use however many you fancy. And there we are. There's my Merry Christmas card with my my Confetti Star Punch, Sassy Salutations, embossed layer here. I hope you like it. I will put all of the measurements and the products that I've used on my blog, www.cariadcards.co. Thank you very much for watching. Goodbye from me, Debbie.